Hello, so it's been a while since I made one of these videos. It's probably been 6 months since I was first looking into buying an e-bike and giving my first experiences of the e-bike that I bought from Halfords. And so far, 6 months on, I've done about 600 miles on the bike. I've done about 100 rides, and I've been in the saddle for about 50 hours, so I'm averaging about 6 miles, which is the distance to work in each direction, so 6 miles per trip. Um, the main thing I can say from my 6 months on the bike is that it does make cycling enjoyable when you've got a motor to back you up. So you still have to put some effort in, but I quite enjoy the ride to work and back, especially when the weather's okay. I'm a bit of a fair weather cyclist, so I'm averaging about 2 or 3 times a week. That's gone down when there's been weeks with bad weather, and come up again. So this week the weather's been quite nice, so I've been going out even when it's been dark in the mornings to go out. It's still been quite pleasant to get on the bike and go out. It makes it better when you know your route and you know which is your best route, which took me a few weeks to work out, and which bits you can cycle on the road, which bits you cycle on the cycle paths. The main thing I would say is that the motor makes a hell of a difference to that enjoyment of the cycling. So this morning there was a very brisk headwind, which I think if I'd been on a non-motorized, non-pedal assist bike, then I would have been struggling to move really. But with the pedal assist and the motor, I was motoring along at my usual speed, which is limited at 15 miles an hour. My average for the commute is about 12.5 to 13 miles an hour. That's with all the stops. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. I can go up the slight inclines without really noticing they're there. I see other cyclists who might be slowing down as they're going up them, but I just tootle along at on my merry way at about 15 miles an hour, so that's great. Other bonuses, so as I've been cycling, as I say, doing 2 or 3 commutes in a week, I've lost about 3.5 kilograms in weight, or half a stone. That's without really trying, without cutting down on anything else, just from the fact I'm doing more regular exercise. My knees have just about held up. I do still feel them at times, but they're not causing me to stop having to cycle, so that's great. What else has happened over those 6 months? So my commute originally was taking me about 32 minutes. It's down to about 27 minutes now, and that's just from having got a bit fitter, and as I say, knowing the way as well. I don't see it coming down much more than that. You get these apps like Strava. I'm monitoring how far I go on Strava, which can be good, but it's always trying to encourage you to go faster and beat your time from yesterday, which is fine for a while, and you get carried away with it and try and do it. But after a while, especially on an e-bike, when you can't really go much above the top speed of the e-bike, which is about 15 and a half miles an hour, it's limited to. Now, you can go faster than that, but you have to put in a lot more effort, because all of a sudden the motor cuts out at that speed and it's all down to you, and it's quite a heavy bike when you're going without the motor, so it takes a lot more effort to go above that speed. So I figure, why bother? Why not just stay at the 15 miles an hour and just enjoy the ride, really? So I think I'm at about the level or the speed that I will use for getting to work. The time that I will get will always be around this 27-28 minutes. I found that if I try and push it harder, probably cut 30 seconds off, but most of that's made up by the traffic lights and whatever that you come across every day anyway, so there's not really much point in trying to push it that much harder and go much faster. Other comments I'd make, so having the right gear I think makes a big difference. Having your helmet, little rain cover for your helmet, waterproof trousers, a waterproof jacket, a base layer, the right lights, a rack, a pannier, so you've not got something on your back, just makes you all feel a bit freer. And I think, I can't remember what I spent on it now, it's probably 100 to 150 pound on gear, and that was getting the relatively cheap gear, getting a decent lock, things like that. I don't think you need to buy the most expensive, so I picked up my pannier for £5, I think it was, and that's still going strong, and I don't need anything better than that. All right, it's getting a bit frayed at the edges, there's a little tear in it, but it's done me for 6 months for £5. I can't really ask for much more than that. So I think making sure you've got the gear so that you're not kind of compromising, having a big backpack on that's weighing you down, etc. So you've got that feeling of freedom. You're not getting soaked. Got a nice pair of waterproof trousers from Decathlon, which have nice little covers for your feet, waterproof covers for your feet, so your shoes don't get soaked. The bike works great in the in the rain as well, so that's not a problem. I think Decathlon is something I would recommend, looking for cycling gear that's affordable. You can get all kinds of things there. You can get your base layers, which keep you nice and warm on the winter, autumn days. So definitely check out Decathlon if you're thinking about getting some cycling gear and you don't want to spend the earth on it. The lights, I'm loving the fact that you've got USB charging lights. I remember when I was a kid with my lights and getting through so many batteries and having to keep replacing the batteries, and they'd always run out when you're halfway home. With these USB charging lights, you just get to work, you put them on the charger, and you never have to worry about them running out. So that's a great advantage. Other things on the bike, so I think the bike's perfectly suitable for what I want. It doesn't have any suspension, doesn't have kind of suspension on the forks or anything, which I was wondering whether that would jar me and jolt me. I'm not finding any problem with that at all. I even find that it's better to have the tyres pumped up as much as possible, getting to the highest PSI that they'll take, and that helps you cut down the rolling resistance, and you don't really feel the jolts anymore than when you got them a bit softer. So it's always worth pumping them up every week or two just to make sure that they're not losing pressure. Other things about the bike, are there any negatives? The only negative I really had was that after a couple of weeks, it developed an annoying squeak in the front wheel, which I think was probably something to do with the brakes. But every time I would turn it upside down and try and recreate the squeak, as soon as you've got it upside down with no weight on it, then it didn't squeak at all. So it was really difficult to try and pin down what was going on. And that lasted for probably a month, which was a little bit annoying. Everybody could hear you coming with this squeaky wheel. Obviously, if it's the brakes, you don't really want to oil the brakes to stop them. It probably needed a little adjustment, but I didn't really get round to doing that. But it's gone away now. It went away after about a month, and now I don't hear it at all, so that's not a problem. So my closing thoughts on this really is that it was a great purchase. It was great for avoiding having to commute on the bus. I was quite lucky that I didn't have to get on the bike every day, because where I work they were allowing you to park for free anyway, so I didn't really need, I could have just driven in every day. But it's actually quite nice to split your commute between driving and getting a bit of exercise, which I wasn't really getting much of before. Definitely feeling a bit fitter, got a little way to go, so I want to try and keep this up, which is going to be harder as the weather gets worse over winter, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, if you're thinking of getting an e-bike, whether it's this one or another one, a pedal assist one, I would say from my point of view as somebody who hadn't ridden for many years, it's definitely worth thinking about and giving it a try. They are quite an investment. As I say, the cheapest ones are about £1,000, but I think it's worth it if you want to get a bit more exercise and get out there and enjoy your commuting on the bike and see what all these cyclists are talking about. You do have to have your wits about you a bit, not from the traffic. It's mainly from pedestrians. I've found that often especially when you're early in the morning, people are half asleep and they don't really listen, or people have got big headphones on these days or on their phones, and you ding 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 your little bell, and that's something I might upgrade. Try and get a louder bell, because people just don't hear you coming, and you think they have, and then all of a sudden they veer into your path and you've got to take evading action. But as long as you're not traveling too fast and just taking your time, it's not too much of an issue. But that's what I found more hazardous than the traffic, to be honest. So I'll leave it there. That's kind of my summing up of my experiences from my first 6 months. And if you're thinking about it, I would say that my experience hasn't put me off. I would recommend giving it a shot.